right. So, Besa, I don't know if you saw this, but I was watching an interview on Vlad TV, and Vlad was interviewing comedian DeRay, and they were having a conversation about Hollywood and really a lot of the sexual assault accusations around Harvey Weinstein and Terry Crews and things of that nature. And within the context of that conversation, DeRay opened up and admitted that his first sexual encounter, he lost his virginity to two 30 something year old women. He also made the claim that these women had somehow had a relationship or a friendship with his mother. And he talks about, that sexual encounter and those women taking advantage of him at 11 going on 12 years old. What's crazy to me about the interview is that someone laughs in the background. DeRay like kind of opens up, he makes a smile, he kind of like laughs it off. But I'm really thinking, like, what the hell are we laughing about? Because this child was raped by two 30-year-old women, and you have these men in the background, like kind of like shifting this to be like, oh yeah, he was in beast mode, when really the conversation he was having was like he was traumatized, and now he doesn't even feel comfortable going down on women because of the trauma, the sexual trauma that he experienced as a young child. It makes me think about what we heard back in the day when Chris Brown talked about losing his virginity at 8 years old, right? And now he's this like sexual prowess, and that's why he's so good in bed. Or even, like hurt young boys like R. Kelly, who was sexually assaulted as a young child by a female family member. What is this, you guys? I mean, this is rape culture, but we're really laughing about whether or not boys can be raped and molested at a young age. And I think this is kind of the wrong message to send, and there's no outrage about it. So I don't know. I mean, it really stood out. It really plucked something in my heartstrings. And I really think I wanted to bring it to the table to have a conversation with you and our audience about it, because it's something that's so often overlooked, where boys, young boys, are kind of given this pat on the back when they have these sexual assaults, and it's kind of not really discussed. What do you think?
I think I think the pat on the back comes because, and even like in that instance, the laughing, because it probably happened to them too. So I think that, how they say laugh away the pain. So if go with me on this one. If you live on a block, right, and say there's 10 young boys on the block, and then 6 out of the 10 young boys have been touched in some way by a male or female aunt, uncle, friend, whatever, and they were underage. One opens up to one opens up to the other, and then maybe somebody else opens up, and then maybe someone else opens up, and they make a joke about it to lighten the mood. I think this is something that unfortunately happens so often to not just, children, but in particular young Black boys, and they don't really talk about it. I don't necessarily know if it's really a rite of passage. I almost really feel like it's more so of, yeah, this happens a lot. We're used to it now. And we just kind of like sweep it under the rug. And the easiest way to sweep it under the rug is to make a joke about it. And I think it's unfortunate. It does definitely normalize a culture of that. But I think if it's something that you're just so used to where it happened to your dad's dad, your brother, your cousin, old boy down the street, I just think that in the way that I personally grew up, their mindsets are different than mine, to where it's hard for me to even grasp how something like that would be funny. But again, if it's normal to you, kind of laughing away that trauma is possibly what that ends up being. And then the rite of passage makes it to where it's like, you're all right. Because if you think about it, with boys are allowed to sleep with like 5 women in one day. Mm-hmm. Freaking Lori Harvey has been in a few relationships that we've known about, and she's an absolute whore to everybody. Yet Future has how many baby mamas? You know what I mean? So it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, boys will be boys, you know what I mean? And you know, no one really says anything to the woman over the years, but the boys have this quote unquote rite of passage, which really is just a very awkward story that you might want to go get some therapy for.
I couldn't agree more. And I think Harry Jefferson's comment, if we can put that up, Cuddy, is right on the money. It's a double standard in all ways. Society doesn't recognize sexual assault from women to men. The definition of sexual assault is for a man to assault a woman. For this reason, it gets swept under the rug, essentially. And that's true. I mean, I think you also coined it the right way. It has almost been deemed as a rite of passage. And that is the way that and we'll just speak on the black men have learned to cope with that trauma, and that these sexual predators, these women that are sexually preying on these young boys, you know, it's almost like they're, you know, pulling them out of their innocence, and they're using this rites of passage kind of narrative to be able to code that sexual assault. And I think we need to really think about that. And I think we need to have more conversations about that. And I think we need to protect our young men a lot more, because we're quick to be like, oh, nah, our girls can't spend the night with Uncle so-and-so, but we never think about Auntie so-and-so who could be doing the same thing, or her girlfriends that are coming over there. And I've heard this story.
After all that damn wine.
Come on. I mean, and we think of women as not having the ability to be sexual predators. But then when we see it, we're just so shocked and appalled. I mean, I have an 11-year-old little boy in my house right now, and I just can't imagine a 30-something-year-old woman taking him under the cuff like that. I mean, that's why it's so shocking to me to listen and watch, you know, DeRay talk about it. And you could tell that trauma was still sitting on him. And then to have someone laugh it off in the back, it totally just changed how he was going to talk about it. I mean, he goes into like, and I just remember I didn't even have any hair on my body. He just kept repeating that. And you could tell he was bringing himself back into the moment. And to have someone lighten that mood, I think we can't go with the boys will be boys anymore. And we got to protect them. Like it's too much. Can we pull up Nicole West's comment?
I want to like also note people that do that to their children. For example, Boozy was like, he took his son and his nephew to have like a 30-some-odd, you know, woman go down on them. And he paid her to do it. So it's like, I feel like that kind of goes in with that rite of passage things where he's like, yeah, I definitely paid a grown woman to come over here and service my son and my nephew when they were like 13. And he was proud of it. He said it on IG Live. And I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah, listen, I actually totally forgot we had the clip. So Cuddy reminded me that we had the clip. I was just thinking about it, and because I watch it. So let me play the clip for you guys so you guys can actually see it. And then we'll kind of wrap this up in a bow and move on to our next topic.
I wasn't being parented correctly. Slightly try to take advantage of me, and not slightly, have taken advantage of me.
You lost your virginity to two 30-year-olds?
Yeah.
At the same time?
Yeah, two ugly, horrible looking women.
And you were?
What was I?
You were how old?
11.
11.
Going to 12. I had no hair on me.
Right.
I remember not having, and it was disgusting. And to this day, it's difficult for women to get me to go down. It's difficult. The girls that have had it, you're welcome. But it's hard. It's hard for me. It's hard for me to go down, man, because I remember what it was like down there. It was like a scary jungle.
I'm sorry, that should be funny, but that was funny. It's the description. I think first of all, Vlad was one of the people that was definitely laughing.
100%.
He's a comedian. So what he ended up doing again is making light of the more uncomfortable that he got and the more that I could see him getting uncomfortable, his jokes got funnier. So it's like
it was deflection at its finest.
I really feel like he would rather, and a lot of especially Black men that this happened to rather than actually going to like get some mental help and talk to someone and be worked through with it and be able to have that trust again, it's easier to just make a joke and make light of the situation, because otherwise, if you stay on that like same level of this is what happened and I didn't have any hair on my body, and you don't take a left to where it was like a jungle down there or whatever have you, and you're welcome, now the energy in the room is different, and maybe they feel like, oh my God, I brought the room down. Or, you know, it's like those little excuses that you make up in your head. I feel like that trauma is just something that a lot of people don't know how to deal with. And like I said, it's easier to make a joke.
Girl, I mean, even watching it back after talking about this, like you see that DeRay is leading into it. He's leaning into the story like it's sexual assault, but Vlad just laughs at it and he's like, oh yeah, you lost your virginity to 2 women. And he's like, yeah, and I was 11. And he was like, and you were what? And he was like, and I was 11. And he can't even express it to him openly. Like, actually, this was really traumatizing without Vlad making light of the situation. So listen, there is this is something that we're going to continue to talk about, you guys, but this is not new on the menu. Like, this is something that actually happens. I wanted to bring awareness to this topic because clearly people, our young boys are coping with this situation and making it a laughing matter.